Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, Corkies.
Hello.
All right, so you are here ready for our first ever mental health conference, the whole experience. You are in for a treat. You are in for a treat. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the whole experience. We're so excited and thankful for you all to enjoy this wonderful day with us. You are here. My name is Heather. If you don't know, Heather Heath, and I am a licensed mental health counselor.
My name is Arielle Griffin. I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
And we created the podcast with each other back in October of 2020.
Yes.
We've actually known each other for like 10 plus years now. I don't know, I lost count. But today is not about us. It's all about our wonderful guests that we have, speakers. So we want to definitely jump in and get into the whole experience as quickly as we can. We ask that you hold your questions until our question and answering session. That will be later on towards the end of today's conference. If you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll make note of it and we'll bring it up later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And please make sure that your microphone is actually muted so that we can't hear you unless you're asking a question like later on in the conference.
Right. So without further ado, because we want to be mindful of your time, we're going to jump right in.
Yes.
Oh. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to be tech savvy around here. Y'all know how I do. I'm going to mess up something. Y'all know how I do. This is who. Yeah, there we go. One second.
These people still joining us as well.
There we go.
Letting everybody in.
All right. So first up, we have Katina James, who is a licensed mental health counselor. Katina specializes in helping individuals heal from challenges such as depression, anxiety, career frustration, low self-esteem, poor work/life balance, stress, and superhero complex. She earned her Master's of Science in Health Information Management from Florida A&M University. I don't know if we have any of those here. And later obtained a master's degree in counseling and an education specialist degree in career counseling. Katina will be speaking about forgiveness today. Please welcome Katina James.
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to express my gratitude towards Heather and Arielle. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. As Heather mentioned, I'll be talking about forgiveness today. So I really hope this is helpful to those that are live watching, as well as those that may have the opportunity to watch later. So if I'm looking at my notes, just pardon me for a little bit, okay? So as I was thinking about what to talk about, there's so many different topics to talk about within mental health, but forgiveness really stuck with me. So we're gonna just go ahead and dive in. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is the act of forgiving. And what is forgiving? Forgiving is to cease the feeling of resentment towards an offender. Another explanation is through reducing negative thoughts, emotions, motivations, and behaviors towards the person that offended you. Forgiveness can increase your positive emotions, such as empathy, hope, and compassion. So many times in life, we are offended. So I've been offended many times. I've been offended at work, at church. I've experienced what we all call church hurt. I've been offended in relationships with family, friends, or complete strangers. So these experiences can leave us wounded emotionally. So unlike emotional wounds, when we have a physical wound, we can attend to those wounds by applying a bandage. You can get medical attention depending upon the severity of the wound. So in childhood, like when you run, you play, you get bumps, you get nicks, you get bruises, but somebody gives you some attention. Somebody typically comes to your rescue. They give you like a Band-Aid and a lollipop, and then, it's all over. But with emotional wounds, of course, those are very, very different. So, just to make a comparison, our bodies, when we have a physical wound, there are four stages of healing. There's our blood clots, there's inflammation, our tissue grows, and our tissue remodels itself. So each stage of a physical healing is necessary for our bodies to repair itself. So at the end of that, there's typically a scar that's left. And we can always look at our scars negatively or positively. Like I said, when you're a kid and you hurt yourself, we're adults, but we still have a scar that lets us remember, okay, this is what happened when I was 5. I fell down and I cut myself. So a negative thought would be to focus on the trauma that caused a scar. But a scar is also evidence that you were healed, meaning that that wound is no longer open. So our emotional scars tend to show up in our attitudes and our behavior. I'm sure we've all experienced that, whether it's personally or we've seen other people in our families or our environment, and they have a behavior that kind of gives you an understanding like that person's they're really angry or they're very sensitive. And those are evidences of emotional scars. So when we experience trauma in our life, um, our mind goes through thoughts and feelings, and we bear the weight of emotional injury. So the weight of that shows up in crying, again, through our attitudes. Some people are paranoid because they've gone through different trauma. So the injuries aren't seen, but we must purpose in our hearts and our minds to do the work to go towards emotional healing. So some evidences and what forgiveness can do for us. Forgiveness can impact our human body, our physical bodies. Forgiveness can lower your blood pressure. It provides healthier relationships. It lowers the risks of heart attack. It lowers the symptoms of depression. It can boost our immune system, which is really important now that we're in a pandemic. It improves your self-esteem, improves your overall mental health, the quality of your sleep. Sometimes if you're having sleeping problems, you have to really do a lot of internal work to process why your mind won't shut down, why you're not able to just kind of have a time of mellowing out. Forgiveness can reduce anxiety as well as anger and provide peace and success. But forgiveness requires us to release grudges and bitterness. A lot of times we judge others for what they've done, but we don't judge ourselves as critically. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to forgive. We get stuck many times, so we have to overcome the memory of the pain that we've experienced. So that's what's really hurtful in our emotional pain, like the memory of it. Like we're not experiencing what happened at 5 years old or 10 years old or when you were in a toxic relationship. You're not physically experiencing that at this moment, but the memory of that is the pain that you're experiencing. And that's where forgiveness comes in. It removes the power of an individual to continually hurt you. So, for example, like if a person was traumatized by physical abuse, sexual abuse when they were a child, you're an adult now, that's no longer physically happening to you. So as you release the hurt, you take away that person's power to hurt you in 2022. So I hope that really resonates and makes sense. Um, Reasons people don't forgive. Sometimes people don't forgive because they're addicted to the the power to think about revenge. Like some people literally go out of their way to say, I'm going to get them back. I'm going to hurt them like they hurt me. I'm going to take something from them because I want to see them hurt the way I was hurt. And so people don't want to move from that because, in a sense, that makes them feel powerful, but it keeps you cycling back to those moments of hurt. So, how to get unstuck? So, we have to stop rehearsing the pain and the memory by talking about the situation over and over again. There are a lot of times, like um, typically like on TV shows, we see women talking. We're always talking about relationships. We're talking about what happened and who did what. But the more you talk about the hurt, the more you do that over and over, or if it's a traumatic situation, every time you do that, you are reliving that situation. You're reliving the trauma as you talk about it or you post about it. Every time something happens in your life, you're posting to social media. So to get unstuck, you have to see the situation from a different perspective. For example, I was in a car accident, and the driver caused the accident, but then he lied to the officer and said that it was my fault. My car was totaled. I sustained injuries, and so I could look at that from a perspective of always thinking back. Well, he lied. Um, I lost my car. I ended up everything spiraled. I lost my job because I couldn't go to work, and so I could sit and blame the person, or I can move forward and look at it and say, well, during that time, I was able to be off. I was able to physically rest, allow my body to heal. I was able to get treatment. And overall, through the trials, I have been and am being restored. So, evidence of unforgiveness and its connection to illness. I want to share some studies that I found by a couple of physicians. So, Dr. Stephen Standiford is a chief of surgery at the Cancer Center Treatment of America. He talks about how refusing to forgive makes people sick and keeps them that way. Dr. Michael Berry states that of all cancer patients, this really kind of blew my mind, of all cancer patients, 61% of those patients have forgiveness issues. So if a person's holding on to bitterness for years and years and years, that tends to show up in your body. It shows up in the stress of your body, and your organs can't process it. That's why we have to do the mental and emotional work to release these challenges. Also, Dr. David Schreiber, he says that emotional wounds sets off the stress response in our bodies, the release of cortisol, inflammatory factors, and it slows down our immune system as well. And it contributes to the spread and growth of cancer. So again, we're seeing how important it is to forgive. Let's see. And to get to how we forgive. When we don't practice forgiveness, we're not hurting anyone except ourselves. Because the people that have hurt us, they've moved on. They're in new relationships. Some people have passed away. Some people are just they don't care about how they've hurt you. And so when we are holding on to bitterness, resentment, thinking about some revenge, we are hurting ourselves. It's a one-sided transaction to forgive. So the first step is to acknowledge the hurt. So no one's asking you to dismiss the things that have happened to you or the hurt that you experienced. So it's okay to acknowledge that. Think about the incident that angered you, accept that it happened, accept how you feel about it, and how it made you react. The next step is to acknowledge the pain and the growth that you've experienced as a result of what happened. So, what did it make you learn about yourself? Did it show you that you need to maybe speak up for yourself, that you do have a voice, that you're no longer a victim? Maybe that's something you learned about yourself. Do you need to set boundaries? So, not only did you survive the incident, but perhaps you had a chance to grow from it. Now, think about the other person. People who hurt us, We're all flawed. Nobody's perfect. We all come from different circumstances and backgrounds, and we act from our beliefs and our limitations, or even from our own pain. I talk to a lot of people that have resentment even towards their parents because their parents may not have done something that they thought their parents should have done. But before they were your parents, they were people. They had relationships, they had their own insecurities. Your mom may have been a teenage mom. And can you imagine being a kid and you have a kid? And so your mom may not have been able to raise you the way you think you should have been raised, or even people see differences in their parents when they have a different child later in life. And there's some resentment because they were treated differently, or their parent may have got more wisdom. So sometimes we just have to think about the person that offended us and almost understand their psyche, understand what they were going through, what caused them to do that. And it's in a religious sense, people think, well, why did God allow that? The same times that we have those feelings that I shouldn't go there, or maybe I shouldn't do that, those people probably experience those same unctions of to not do something that happened to you, but they did not listen to that voice inside. Um, the next step is to accept the fact that you cannot change the past. So we don't want to live in our past. We don't want to get stuck there, except you can't change that, but you can live today. You do have the liberty of moving forward. It's 2022, it's the beginning of a new year. We do have the opportunity to live past these circumstances. So sometimes saying out loud, whether it's to yourself or just quietly saying, I forgive you, and just practice that and just start at that point to release yourself and that person from the bitterness. So, overcoming the memory of a pain, allow yourself to move forward. Like nobody can hold you in the prison of those moments but you. So allow yourself to move forward. Don't hold on to the pain like a badge of honor. A lot of people feel like I was a victim and this happened to me. So I'm entitled to be upset. I'm entitled to be angry. I'm entitled to be the angry woman or the man that's aggressive. I'm entitled to that because of all these things that have happened to me. But don't allow those things to be an excuse for you to stay where you are. Journal, pray, go to therapy, exercise, do something to move from the memory and the moments of your pain and trauma. So, the outcome of forgiveness, the most profound effect anyone who's experienced a forgiveness intervention is a feeling of peace, a feeling of letting go of things that they may have been carrying around most of their lives. I met a lady once who was in her 40s at the time. She was upset with her siblings because they pushed her down when she was 5. So 40 years she carried that resentment. 40 years she harbored all of those negative feelings without doing the work to move forward and enjoy her family, to allow herself to be released from the heaviness. So when I've talked a lot about forgiveness of an individual, but sometimes we have to forgive ourselves. A lot of times we're not doing the things that we know we need to do, we can do, we should do. We're not being the best parent, we're not being the best wife or husband, or we're not being as supportive as a child to our parents. And so being able to again do the work, go get you some help, go there's a lot of platforms that have therapy. Go do the work so you're not stuck in the prison of your emotions. Forgive yourself, release yourself. If you're the person that victimized someone else, release yourself. And if you feel it's healthy and safe to go to that person and ask them for forgiveness, do that as well. Ultimately, you can be released from the past. Again, do the work, allow yourself to heal and overcome the pain of the memory that you've experienced. Again, my name is Katina. I hope this has been helpful. God bless you. Thank you again, Heather and Ariel.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you. Again, if you have any questions for Miss James, please feel free to put it in the chat, excuse me. She will be back later on the panel if you want to ask her any questions directly as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emma Raystrick, licensed clinical social worker. Emma's clinical experience includes working with clients who struggle with depression, anxiety, past traumas, mood disorders, self-harm, suicidal ideation, substance abuse, and other disorders as well. She has a BSW from University of West Florida and a minor in substance abuse, as well as a master's degree in social work from West Florida as well. Emma is speaking about suicidal awareness and substance abuse today. Please welcome Emma Raystrick.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone is enjoying their Saturday so far. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get started. All right. All right, can everyone see my screen? Okay. All right, so I will be talking about substance abuse, and I put understanding the whole picture because a lot of people don't really understand all the moving parts of substance abuse, who it affects, how it affects people. So I kind of went with the theme of our whole experience, and I wanted to give a little bit of information on the whole picture of substance abuse. So much like many people, and especially people in the social work, mental health field, we all have a reason for why we're in the field that we're in. Mine resonates with substance abuse. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story and how I'm connected with substance abuse. And then I'm going to go ahead and move into providing some information for y'all. So this is what people don't see or think of when it comes to substance abuse. No one thinks that this person is a person. No one thinks that, you know, they have a family, they had a childhood, they have a life, they have hobbies. No one sees that. We just see what we see right then and there, which is the addiction. So a big part is, you know, who was the addict before the addiction took over. So in these pictures, this is my big sister. Her name is Kaylee. She's 30. I'm the little blonde, weird looking one, and the dark haired one is my older sister. So this is what she looked like before addiction. This is who she was before addiction. And then this is who she became. So these pictures on the left, the top left and the bottom left, that was before addiction started to take over. And as you can see in the rest of the pictures, you know, you can see how it really transformed to how she physically looked, like on the outside to what we would see. So over the course of her 10-year addiction, you know, she went from smoking marijuana with her friends, normal, you know, high school experience, to shooting up heroin in the bathroom at 7-Eleven. So, and every single thing in between. You know, several separate overdoses, two overdoses occurred in the same day. A miracle that she even survived that. Arrests, car accidents, violence, broken trust, completely wiped my parents financially clean, including my dad's 401k, and, you know, whatever college fund that they had been building for myself. And 7+ attempts, trying to get clean, trying to resolve, trying to get her life together, you know, and just in it wasn't working. So in a lot of these pictures, you can really see how addiction just ravages through the entire physical body. I mean, she's but skin and bones in some of these pictures. So, you know, this is what kind of brought me into the field. And this is why substance abuse is so important to me, because before I educated myself on what it was, I was very much you know, nope, that's your fault. That's what you get, because I just wasn't educated on it. So this is what addiction was. Stole the sister that I had, but recovery is possible. She now has 5 years clean. Sorry. 3 super beautiful children that are literally my whole life. These 3 little ones on the right. She's at a healthy weight. She's a valued member of society. She's about 3 months away from graduating with her bachelor, and is now my best friend. And that's something that I never had, even growing up, but then especially the decade long of her addiction, you know, it took a lot. And now she's the first person I call about anything good, bad, or indifferent. And she's a wonderful mother to these kids, and she brought them into our life, and she's doing great. So although the pictures you saw before is, you know, what addiction turned her into, she was able to get to the other side, get into recovery. She's doing very well, hasn't touched anything since. So it's important for people to know that recovery is possible, and it's not a lost cause just because, you know, they've stolen from you, or they've done this and they've done that. It's not a lost cause, because it is possible to get to the other side. So that is kind of what brought substance abuse into my life. And although it was a huge part of my life, and, you know, a lot of my life is tied to that, I've used that kind of as some strength and guidance and resilience to do what I do and to want to help other people and to educate people on substance abuse. And that's why I chose to go over it with you guys today. So just some info about what substance abuse is. I'm not going to read all the slides verbatim because that would be boring. So you can kind of read as I hit some snippets, but basically substance abuse is just any uncontrolled amount of alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, illicit drugs, whatever it is, that can affect your everyday life. So just in the year between March 2020 and March 2021, 96,000 plus overdoses were reported. Now I italicized reported because not every single overdose that occurs is reported. These are just ones where people were found or autopsies were completed or whatever the case was, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands that go unreported. There are millions of Americans who struggle with addiction every day. And a lot of those people that are struggling with addiction started before they even became an adult. They started as a teenager, trying something, you know, hanging out with friends, your normal experience. And the most common substances that we hear about, alcohol is a big one, nicotine, opiates, heroin, cocaine, amphetamines, methamphetamines, benzos, all of that. Those are the most common. Now there are several different types of substances, but those ones are the most prevalent, most easily accessible, and the ones that have the highest addiction rate. So what does addiction look like? This is what addiction looks like. So all these pictures, students, police officer, a server at a restaurant, a doctor, this is what addiction looks like. It can affect anyone. It doesn't matter your sex, your age, your race, your gender, none of that matters. Socioeconomic class. Addiction doesn't pick and choose based on those things. There's a big misconception about, you know, addicts. When you think of addicts, a lot of people are like, okay, crackhead, like that's what you're thinking. Someone that's super strung out, someone that's just, oh yeah, you could totally tell they're an addict by looking at them. But the reality of it is addiction can look like me, can look like you, can look like anybody, because, you know, addiction doesn't pick based on your career field, doesn't pick based on if you're married or not. So these are just some examples of what addiction can look like, just to kind of keep in perspective that people that suffer with addiction are people that have lives and loved ones. So big phenomenon of, is it a choice? Is it a disease? So I kind of gave a little bit of info on both, but then I also kind of touched on, is it possible that addiction can be a choice and a disease? So as far as the choice goes, a lot of people are, you know, very much like, well, they're making that decision, they're doing the drugs, they're doing it again. So, you know, that's on them. But again, when it comes to addiction, not everyone who uses any type of drug or alcohol becomes addicted. Some people can drink alcohol and they're just fine. Some people can have one sip and, you know, they become addicted to it. So there's a variety of factors that play a role in that: genetic predispositions, environmental factors, social factors, you know, who you're spending your time around. All of those influence whether addiction can lead to addiction or whether you can just have a drink and you're okay. The disease component of it, that flip side is there are physiological changes that occur in the chemistry of the brain. So over the course of ingesting substances, what happens with that long-term substance use is it physically changes the chemicals in your brain and the reward pathway that gets created with dopamine. So like if I go to the gym and I work out, I get this like really great high and I feel great and I love it. So then I'm going to go to the gym again because I loved how that felt. So what happens with drugs and alcohol is the ingestion of the drugs and alcohol actually replaces that good feeling. So then the only way you can get that good feeling and that pleasure is by taking those drugs and alcohol. So then what ends up happening is that leads to people becoming addicted because they realize, oh, I'm getting this great feeling and they want that great feeling. And then the parts of your brain that get affected are, you know, the regions of your brain that have to do with judgment, decision-making skills, your frontal lobe, memory. All of those parts of your brain start to physically deteriorate. Those brain cells die and they do not grow back. So over time, you know, it gets to a point where your brain chemicals and the way your brain works physiologically changes. And that's why I included the part about, well, can it be both? Most of the time, do people choose to try drugs or drink the first time? Majority of the time, yes, they choose that the first time. However, that chronic use leads to a tolerance that becomes a physiological addiction that the body becomes reliant on. And that is when addiction no longer becomes a choice. Because again, once your brain chemicals change, there's not a lot that can be done as easily as just, okay, I'll just stop doing it. The effects that addiction can have on mental health. So co-occurring disorders is a big kind of thing in the mental health field. So that's when there are mental health diagnoses, mental health issues that happen in occurrence with the substance abuse. So a lot of times the mental health issues kind of mask the substance abuse issues and vice versa. So disorders like depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar, all of those are very common to occur at the same time that the substance abuse is happening. So when that goes untreated, it leads to this vicious cycle of trying to self-medicate because you feel bad, but then you're feeling bad because the drugs, you're self-medicating for that. And it leads to this cycle that is very difficult for people to get out of. So then you get to the point where it's which came first. Are you abusing drugs because of these mental health issues that you have? Or do you have mental health issues because you're abusing drugs? And it makes it very difficult for even professionals to be able to identify the difference, let alone the person that is suffering with that addiction themselves. So the impact that it has on the overall functioning in that addict's life is getting high becomes the number one priority, regardless of any consequence, regardless of any rationale. The only thing that matters at that point is getting high. There's also an increased development of mental health issues that were not present prior to the drugs. So you have plenty of people that maybe never really experienced anxiety, didn't have any traumatic experiences, anything like that. And then they start abusing these drugs, which leads them to have these traumatic experiences or leads them to have the depression and mood disorders and things of that nature. And then of course there's a loss of finances, stability, friends, family, things that you like, your job, all that goes out the window because again, the number one priority is getting that high. There's about 60% of people that get arrested that test positive for an illegal substance at their arrest. So criminal activity and substance abuse really go hand in hand. And then as well as that, there are physical health issues that become a problem. A huge thing with substance abuse, hepatitis C, it's very big. That often comes from sharing needles, doing drugs in places that are not sanitary, cardiac issues, breathing issues, renal problems, stuff like that, liver failure. All of those physical health issues come as a result of this extended substance use. So the effect on the non-addicts. So these are the people that are not doing the drugs. These are the people that are affected. So your families, your parents, significant others, sisters, kids, all of those people, those are the people that are also being affected by this addiction because they love the person that is underneath of that addiction. They remember the person that was there before that addiction. So if you think about all of the people in your life that you love, if one of them was to become an addict, it's not as easy to just be like, all right, well, good luck with your life because you love that person. They mean something to you. So with substance abuse comes increased mental health issues for those non-addicts, so the family members. So children that have people in their family that have addiction issues are 4 times more likely to develop an addiction themselves than those that are not being raised by parents that do drugs or drink alcohol, or those not being raised with individuals that do that. There's also an increased suicidal ideation, attempts, self-harm for the loved ones of those people that are suffering with addiction. Because there's an inability to cope with what's left over after that addiction has come through your life like a tornado and ravaged everything that was there. So those people, even though they're not doing the drugs, they themselves are suffering from what has happened as a result of that substance use. There's also an increase in suicide when it comes to substance abuse. Oftentimes it's, the addict themselves are suffering from loneliness, shame, guilt, extreme self-loathing, hatred for themselves because of who they have become, because of the things that they have done. So individuals that suffer with addiction problems are 10 to 14 times more likely to die from suicide themselves. And a lot of times that comes from an inability to accept the choices that they have made when they were in that act of addiction. So when they came and stole their mom's wedding ring, and then they've come down from the high and they realize what they've done over time of incidents like that, they get to a point where, they hate themselves and they don't want to live like that anymore. About 30% of overdoses are intentional suicide attempts. So a lot of times people think that you overdose, it's because you're trying to kill yourself, or you overdose and it's not because you're trying to kill yourself, but a lot of times it's both. So the increase in the intentional suicide attempts when it comes to an overdose increases more and more every year, especially as the addict engages in these behaviors that they hate. So this picture on the left, this is someone from the town that I lived in where I went to college. I actually know him. I met him when he was 12 years old. He's 24 and he got into drugs, and a couple of weeks ago, he actually killed his grandmother. He was high, he was in a rage, killed her. He was arrested and he went to jail. When he came down from his high and was told what he did, he ended up hanging himself in jail and died by suicide because he could not live with what he had done to the person that he loved. So that's one example of just someone I happen to know. And if you think of the 21 million people suffering from addiction, how many of them, do things like this? And again, that was a person, under that addiction, that was someone that had family and someone that people loved and cared about. He was a father. So, it's very, very prevalent when it comes to that self-hate and that guilt and that shame that some people just can't live with. So the functional addict, a lot of people have heard of this. Most common functional addiction comes from alcohol. So you see people that maybe every night go home and drink, 3 mixed drinks, or every night drink a 6-pack, or maybe even throughout the day, or, putting it in their coffee or slipping it at the office. So the functional addict is most seen with that alcohol use. However, it can be with other substances as well. So they justify the fact that they are a functional addict by the fact that they have a job, they pay their bills, maybe they're married with kids, they go to the kids' school play, whatever it is, they pay their car insurance, they don't go to jail, all of these things that they use as justification for why they are a functioning addict and why their addiction is not a problem. But really, it's only a matter of time until that addiction becomes a problem. And that's why I put on here that their life appears to be in order and their life appears to be that there's no problems, there's no issues in their functioning, because that's what they're putting off. So a lot of times it's a reward, like, oh, well, you know, I'm a doctor and I see a lot. So like in this job, you got to drink after work. You know, there's things like that I hear often with different professions. And again, that's just a justification to help that person that's suffering from addiction to not feel like they're suffering from addiction. So why is substance abuse important? So on this picture, you can see 136 people every single day die from an opiate overdose. So that's heroin, oxy, roxy, Dilaudid, all of those, you know, pain pills. When you think of, oh, I had back surgery and I was prescribed, you know, I was prescribed Oxycontin. You know, that's because that opiate has such a high addiction rate. So people are dying every single day from those overdoses. Addiction has become a worldwide epidemic. It's not just in the USA, it's in third world countries. It's everywhere, kids, adults, teenagers. It's become a huge epidemic. So it's important to be aware of it, because the biggest thing is remembering that that addict is still a human. That's somebody's child, that's somebody's best friend, that's somebody's parent, that's someone's significant other. That person is still a person. Substance abuse has a huge impact, as I explained earlier, on families, communities, that individual themselves, and it contributes to all of these other problems. So substance abuse awareness is important. And I encourage all of you to choose to be knowledgeable. I was naive, I was young, I was hurt. And until I chose to become knowledgeable about addiction and about what it really entailed, I was very much that, nope, that's what you get. You chose to do drugs, get out of my life, I don't care. And it wasn't until I made that decision, you know what, let me educate myself, let me learn more about it, that I learned how in depth addiction really goes and how much it affects your overall life. So I want to thank everyone for
I think we may have lost Emma for a second. Let's see. Well, thank you to Emma. Yes.
Thank you, Emma. Hopefully she'll be able to come pop back on with us, but thank you. Very informative, she was.
That was excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna have a short break. You guys can grab lunch or a snack, something to drink. We're gonna be showing some ads during the break. Our guest speakers have lots of merchandise for sale and journals and other things that are super exciting, and I want you guys to all be able to see them. So we will resume at, I think it's 12:05, Heather?
Yes.
Okay, so a 20-minute break.
K Classic, K Classic. Told you that you couldn't do it cause you're washed up. Ain't like them bad girls said you should get your sauce up. But I got this plan and you might not understand. I'ma go hard as I can and I'm gonna be the boss of it. Just watch me do this, put no limits on the swag on it. Walk right up to the front where I belong and brag on it. Go to the top, I'ma give it all I got. Might take a lot, but we ain't gonna ever stop. I do believe I'm something special. Can't take that from me. So you can say what you want. I go harder, stronger, be who I'm supposed to be. Cause I'm unstoppable. I get all the way in. That's the way I was made. And I'm up on my bed. Cause I'm unstoppable. Ain't no hoping and wishing. Say a prayer, catch a wave, then I go out and get it. I can be what I want. Try it if I want. Power by the king. And he gon' let me go. I'm unstoppable. Nah, 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 he won't let me go. No, cause I'm unstoppable. I dream about it, I go get it, that's how I do it. Not in the stars, I'm not lucky, I just pray through it. Fall on my face and I might make mistakes, but I don't let it break me, cause I'm still on my way. I do believe I'm something special. Can't take that from me. So you can say what you want, I go harder, stronger, be who I'm supposed to be. it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. I like to get to know ya so I can show ya. Put the pussy on ya like I told ya. Give me all your numbers so I can phone ya. Your girl acting stink, then call me over. Not on the bed, lay me on your sofa. Before you come, I need to shave my choke chop. You do or you don't, or you will, I won't chop. Go downtown and eat it like a vulture. See my hips and my tips, so try. See my ass and my lips, don't try. Lost a few pounds in my whips, for ya. It's the kind of beat that go ra-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Sex me so good, I say blah, blah, blah. Work it, I need a glass of water. Boy, yo, boy, it's good to know ya. Is it worth it? Let me work it. Put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. If you're a fly gal, get your nails done. Get a pedicure, get your hair did. Boy, lift it up, let's make a toast. Let's get drunk, this gon' bring us closer. Don't I look like a Holly Berry poster? See the Belvedere playing tricks on ya. Girlfriend wanna be like me, never. You won't find a bitch that's even better. I make it hot as Las Vegas weather. Listen up close while I take it backwards. Okay, begins to gotta listen me what you want. I'm not a prostitute, but I can give you what you want. I love your braids and your mouth full of phones. Love the way my ass go boom, 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 boom. Keep your eyes on my boom, 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 boom. You think you can handle this? Don't. Take my thumb off and my ass go boom. Cut the lights on so you see what I can do. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. Boys, all type of boys. White Puerto Rican Chinese boys. Bonitas, tallas, solo time to time. White, don't time, solo time to time. Those girls get the cash. If you're not a cop, shake your ass. Ain't no shame, they do your thing. Just make sure you ahead of the game. Just 'cause I got a lot of fame so far. Prince didn't get me, change my name, Papa. Who to tell you slave again, no son. Picture black saying, oh yes, my son. Him dating the pastor. Many men, big red, can out master. Who is the best? I don't have to ask her. When I come out, you won't even matter. I don't like wood, dog. Say I don't like wood, dog. Give you some of this cinnamon. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. Come on, fellas. I like the way you work that. Ladies, you should know how to work that.
You're listening to the sound.
I just wanna tell the truth, man. I wanna tell the truth, man. I wanna tell the truth, man. I wanna tell the truth, man. You're so bad, you're so high. Everybody running, trying to figure out why. You're so cool, you win all the time. Everywhere you go, man, you get a lot of shine. You are like a magnet, baby, you gotta have it. Everything you wear, people say you gotta have it. From the white suit to the white tee to the Gucci, you can probably say people wanna get like me, but what they don't know is when you go home and get behind closed doors, man, you hit the floor, and what they can't see is you're on your knees. So the next time you get a chance, tell them it's the God in me. 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 You think I'm so fresh. You think I'm so clean. You think I'm so sweet. It's the God in me. It's the God in me. You are sweet. It's the God in me. showings when she get home and get behind closed doors. Man, she hit the floor and what you can't see is she on her knees. And if you ask her, she'll tell you it's the God in me. 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 You think I'm so fresh. You think I'm so clean. You think I'm so sweet. It's the God in me. It's the God in me. You see, it's the God in me. You see, you
All right. All right. Did y'all enjoy your break? Did you enjoy the first half? I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster today. Between the wonderful two speakers that we've had so far. Then I got to turn up a little bit during the break. I don't know about y'all, I was jamming. Yeah, so before we get started, I just want to give everybody a moment to get back on. I think we're waiting for maybe one or two people that were here from the first half to come back on. So I just want to give them a second, and then just give us a moment to just breathe, right? Because that's important. We don't take enough time to just breathe. So I want to give us a time to do that. Are you enjoying yourself, Aria?
I am. I'm having a good time this morning.
You are. Me too. This is fun. Let us know in the chat. You don't have, I promise y'all, if y'all have been watching us over this past, year and a half or so, listen to any of our podcasts, we're not stuffy at all. If you stick around for the live podcast, you'll get to see us in action. So feel free to write as much as you want in the chat. Like we said, we are going to have the Q&A panel later on, but if you are one of those people like, I don't want to forget my question, talk about myself, you can go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we write it down and save it for later. But please feel free, interact, let us know what your thoughts are. We are open to feedback, all the above. Did I miss anything, Ariel?
I don't think so.
All right.
I was waiting for Emma to join us again. She is coming back to the call.
Hang out. Okay, perfect.
There she is.
Awesome.
Perfect.
All right. So up next, we have Coach Tiffany Nixon James. So Coach Tiffany James, also known as Coach Tiffany J, specializes in self-love, self-awareness, and women empowerment. Tiffany serves women who lack self-love and self-awareness and who need assistance on their journey to loving themselves first and becoming more self-aware with who they are. Tiffany is the owner of Fearless Journey Coaching Services and Be Fearlessly Inspired. So if you were paying attention to our reels during the break, a lot of her jewelry and her new hats were featured in that. Tiffany will be speaking about self-love today, women empowerment. So please help us welcome Coach Tiffany J.
Hi, everybody. So it's been a good day. Very good, informative information from our other speakers today. Thank you, Heather and Ariel, for this opportunity to come forth and give some information on self-love. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. All right. So self-love. I got into self-love a couple of years ago, actually. It was from a book that I had started reading. A friend had recommended reading. It was about stop spending 100% of our time um, with only using 10% of it on ourselves. So it kind of like, what's she talking about? So it's like a 300-page book. So it's pretty long. But there was a scene in this book where the author was having like a dinner with her friend, and her friend was going on and on about things she has to do. You know, she has businesses, she's a parent, all these things here. So her friend asked her a question, and she was like, do you know who you are? And her friend is like, well, yeah, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I have this and that and that. And she's like, no, that's not what I said. She said, do you know who you are? And she couldn't answer it. I couldn't answer it for myself at the time. I'm like, I would have said the same thing. I would have said, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, you know, I work, I do this, I'm this. And that's not what she meant. She meant, who are you? Do you know how to define yourself? And it took me back because I'm like, I think I done lost myself because I can't answer this question right now. So it made me really think about, do we know who we are? Like, do we ever like really sit and have time to think or be self-aware of what we're going on? As women, we do play a lot of roles. Those are roles we play. They don't define who we actually are. So for me, it's important for us to understand self-love, self-awareness, where to hold our self accountable at. So with self-love, it basically means prioritizing ourselves, giving ourselves permission to find and believe who we are, what our strengths and gifts are, putting ourselves first without guilt, making space for us to embrace ourselves, our lives wholeheartedly. And a lot of times we don't do that. We are busy doing other things, putting everybody else first, from kids and husbands and jobs and businesses. And it's like, okay, well, I'll deal with me later. And either later never comes or later becomes 7 days later. So it's just about being intentional about loving you. Um, Other ways you can love yourself is boundaries. A lot of people don't understand boundaries or how to set boundaries, and that's another thing that we discuss as part of my coaching, is setting boundaries. It also gives us a chance to reach full potential, get to know you. Like, when you can become really in tune with yourself and hold yourself accountable in situations, things will run much smoother for you. But when you don't have that clarity, you'll just be running in circles, running in circles. So spending time with yourself is very, very important. And this is the beginning of 2022. So take this time this year to really get to know you and hold yourself accountable. Because a lot of times we find ways to make it somebody else's fault. Like, oh, well, they did this. And, you know, if they wouldn't have did that, then I wouldn't have did that. But what role did you play in that? So just becoming in tune and fixing ourselves first, so we won't bleed on other people. We won't bleed on our kids. And when I say bleed, is basically taking things out on other people that we are responsible for. Um, so things that are not like self-love is perfection. A lot of us like to be perfectionists. We don't want to do anything without it being like in the tip-top shape. And that's even with life, even in businesses. I've done it before in business, like, oh, I'm not gonna release that yet because it's not ready. Well, it probably is ready, but because of my perfectionism, it's not ready. And somebody's waiting to hear this answer, but because I feel like it's not ready yet, I'm not releasing it. So and things like that, like just doing it sometimes is enough. Just getting out there, do it, working the kinks out, some of the kinks out along the way. We're never going to be perfect. We're not here to be perfect, but we're here for a purpose. So true self-love comes from within, and just, you know, even when we take wrong turns or mess up, it's okay. Give yourself some grace. We all make mistakes. It's okay to start over, try it again. But, you know, as we know better, we will do better. We will figure it out. So the self-love journey is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. Um, You have to face some uncomfortable situations, things that you thought were okay, clearly may not be okay. So, doing that is like some of the first steps to really getting into the self-love journey. Oftentimes we find that it's hard for us to do these things because of certain beliefs, faulty beliefs, or feeling like we don't deserve to put ourselves first. Internalizing things that have been said and done from early childhood wounds, deeply rooted trauma. People may saying, you're fat, or you're never going to be things, or you're never going to be successful. You're always going to be this way. You're always going to be that way. And then we take some of that in and we apply it. And then not only that, we already have what is considered an inner critic that criticizes everything we do. Like it's a battle in your own mind. So a lot of times that stops us from loving us or feeling like we deserve to be loved a certain type of way. And as you go through these journey of loving yourself, you'll find and figure out ways that you want to be loved from yourself and from other people. And some people you may lose along the way because they can't give you that love. They're not able to give you that what you're needing. And that kind of helps you shake out the wrong people, the toxic people, the people that you thought you needed, but you really don't need them. They're not benefiting you in your life. And that too is a hard decision and comes along with boundaries and things like that. We will lose some people on this journey, people that we probably never thought would leave our lives. But because we want the peace, because we want to be more aware, because we want more positive energy, we will take some losses. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather take that loss than have to battle with myself all the time in the areas of my life when I don't have to. So also another thing, being resentful. A lot of times I've experienced it before with being resentful or frustrated, but making certain sacrifices when it came to what I wanted and what I needed. And it's not a great feeling. So you have to really understand that it is okay to love yourself, put yourself first. I never thought about it in the aspect of the way I do now prior to like that book. And then a segment that I saw from Jada Pinkett Smith, she had an interview, it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where she said that she got lost. Like she was lost in being a wife to Will, being a mother to their kids, being an actress in Hollywood, that she just did not know who she was. And even hearing that from celebrities is like, okay, they're not okay either. Like they go through things as well. So and it just really makes you think like, I really need to find out who I am. I really need to identify what my purpose is, why I'm here. It brings on so many different parts of self-love. Self-love is a very big category. We could probably have a whole conference on self-love. So also with self-love, it has to be a mental thing, emotional, spiritual, financial. It beats in all departments, because honestly, if you take a look at your life right now and ask yourself, do I do certain things a certain way in everything I do? So basically I'm saying what I learned from my coach. She told us the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. If you're always late for doctor's appointments or something like that, I'll take that for example, and then you try to have a business, you're always late to your business meeting. You're always late with your clients. Like everything spills over. You're always late to church, or you're always late jumping on calls. It goes on to it'll go all around the board. So that's what I mean when I say the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And it makes sense, because when you think about like, do I really do that? And if you if you catch yourself doing it, you'll know, because you'll catch yourself doing it in everything. And it's like, okay, yeah, I need to fix that. That's the problem. That's the problem. Like, what is making me feel like it's okay to be late to everything? You know what I'm saying? So being self-aware and being intentional. This year, I always have words for each year. This year for me, being intentional. about everything that I do this year. That's my words. I don't know if you guys do that. If you have some, drop them in the chat. Let's see what your words are. Last year was change for me, and I went through a lot of changes. Getting certified as a life coach, we get vetted. We take some real deep core classes, and when I tell you, it was life-changing. It really was. So, but it also helped me with myself, but it also helped me becoming a coach to be able to help other people. So think about that. Think about what your words are for this year. What are you going to be intentional about this year? What things are you going to do to love yourself much more? Even if it's simple as saying that, compliment yourself. We don't compliment ourselves enough. We expect for other people to compliment us, but it starts with you. Your happiness starts with you. Everybody else that's surrounding you is supposed to add value to you. They're not going to make you happy if you're not happy with yourself. So it definitely has to start with you. Admiring yourself, the way you look, the way you feel. Just start showing people how you want to be loved and give that same kind of love out. You got to invest in yourself. And when I say invest, it means like meditating. So I'm going to meditate every day for 10 minutes before I start my day. I'm going to read my Bible or positive affirmations, like eating healthy. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to exercise, like different things to invest in yourself, getting to know yourself, self-evaluations. Like, I mean, I personally like to do evaluations every month to see where I'm lacking, where I'm not, things that I want to work on or I feel I need to work on. It's okay to do those things. That's how you become more in tune with you and who you are. Self-evaluations. You may not have to do them that often. Some people may want to do it every other month, once a quarter, however. But if you decide that, I would just say that pick when you want to do it. In the beginning, it may be best to do it once a month so you can kind of pick up a track of how you want to self-evaluate yourself. If you want to then move on to, every other month, once every 3 months, that's fine. But just make sure that you are evaluating and resetting, because it's very important to, we move around a lot. So it's very important to take that time for yourself and just debrief and reset, relax, and start over, start the next month, however. But most importantly, that I want you to remember is you are enough. You're not alone in this process. You are enough to many. Some people may not think so, but you have to believe that you are enough. You are worthy of life. You are worthy of living. You are worthy of putting yourself first. You deserve it. So also keep that in mind. And for the people that are online with us, if you could write down 4 affirmations, you don't have to do it right now, but think about it. Write down 4 affirmations and say them every day. Speak life into yourself every day. I don't care if it's on your way to work in the morning or at night, or if you, I don't know, maybe you've seen the show Mary Jane when Gabrielle Union played this girl, and she had affirmations everywhere, like all over her mirror, stickers everywhere, all over her mirror, her bed, like nightstand, everywhere. If you got to be one of those people to continually remind yourself, then do it. Do whatever it takes for you to get to be the best version of you. Next, I wanted to just go over a few segments of the self-love. So for self-love, there's 7 major segments. You have self-awareness, you have self-awareness is like the ability to recognize who you are and how much you influence the world and how much the world influences you. Then you have self-exploration. That's the courage to really get into learning yourself in order to improve your knowledge of yourself and who you are. Self-care, there are a variety of things that you can do to take care of yourself overall as a person, whether that's, like I said, meditating, taking nature walks, drinking water, getting you a massage, having you a mama's day, a girl's day, or whatever that looks like for you. Self-esteem is how you view yourself overall as a person, how confident you are. Self-kindness. It's the fifth one. Is being kind with yourself, being friendly. Don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. We make mistakes and it's okay. Self-respect is empower the ability to advocate for yourself. When you feel disrespected, say it. Let it be known. Don't let people get away with disrespecting you. You know your worth. You know who you are. Show yourself some respect, and so other people will respect you as well. So the last one is self-growth. Continue process of selling the opportunities to learn how to love and thrive. So those are a few things to think about in each segment of life. And like I said before, self-love is so broad, and I really tried to shorten it up in the shortest version. But these are key things to remember when you're ready to take this journey of self-love. There are a few other things to keep in mind. The 3 A's. This portion is more so when it comes to forgiving. Katina talked about forgiveness earlier, and forgiveness also accepting is the first, and that's just the fact that you need to forgive. You need to forgive the person, the situation, just the need to forgive. The second A is acknowledge. So you have to acknowledge what could you have done differently in a situation that needs to be forgiven. And adjust is the third, taking the action to forgiving yourself. A lot of times we don't forgive ourselves. We in different situations that we felt like we knew better and we just want to hold ourselves hostage, but no, release it. Okay, let it go. So that also is also forgiving is a big part of self-love, because it's hard to love yourself and you won't even forgive yourself for mistakes that you didn't really understand. And setting boundaries, healthy boundaries. So healthy boundaries also fall under self-love because of the people and the company you keep. Examine your connections to people. Are they always like negative? Are they always empowering? Like, what role do people play in your life? Because that's very important. Energy attaches to you. Certain people energy will attach to you. So getting rid of the toxic people in your life. And I know people feel like, oh, because we're family, or because I grew up with this person, or because they're so close to me, that you have to keep that connection. No, you don't. If it's going to interrupt your peace and provide you in a negative atmosphere, no, you don't. You can talk to them, but at a distance. They don't have to be in your immediate circle. And sometimes it is hard, because there's people that you love, that you know, feel, you know, some kind of friendship about, or family ship, but everybody is not for you, and everybody can't handle you in your growth. They may see it as, oh, she's standoffish now, or she's not a person, you know, she used to be. No, I'm not the person I used to be. I'm growing. I'm learning to love me more. I'm learning to keep away negative energy. I don't want to hear the gossip about who cheated on who and who baby this not it. You know, I don't want to hear that. I want to surround myself with positive people, people that are going to embrace me, not going to judge me, and they're going to help me along my journey, because self-love is a lasting journey. It's not going to happen overnight, and it may not happen in 3 months. You may uncover so much in your journey that you're going to need a therapist, a coach, and everybody else, because a lot of times we suppress a lot of things, and then when it's time to unfold, we're unfolding all the way to childhood. So it's going to take some work, it's going to take some support, it's going to take spiritual guidance. It's going to take a lot. So in that circle of your friends or people that you have in your life, there's 5 that you should have: a cheerleader, and that's who roots for you; a mentor who points you in the right direction; a coach who helps to guide you; a friend who helps to comfort you; a coworker who can relate to you in your work field. So remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to get out your own way and face yourself head on, face and embrace everything about you. So the whole goal of self-loving is to loving you for who you are. Whether it's 100 mistakes or 1,000 mistakes, it's okay to start over and fix it again. So that's my portion of self-love. And if you need any assistance on the journey, let me know. I'm here to help.
Yes, Coach Tiffany J.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you mind really quick? I was gonna save it for later, but I think people might want to know now. The last thing you just mentioned, the people we need in our life. I was trying to type it. You were saying it so fast and I couldn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just can't type that fine. You're fine.
Okay, I'll say it slower. Okay. Cheerleader. That's someone who roots for you. A mentor. That's the person who points you in the right direction. A coach. That's who helps guide you. A friend who helps to comfort you. And a coworker, someone who's in your field of work.
Got it.
We always got to have that work friend. They can relate to some of the issues that's going on. So yeah.
That's so true.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so our final speaker today is Andrea Mack, certified life coach. Andrea is a certified life coach specializing in recovery and trauma. She is transforming lives that were once fear and shame based to fierce and fearlessly lived, and forces to be reckoned with. Andrea is an author and a speaker, and she's speaking today about transformation. Please welcome Andrea Mack.
Andrea may be still muted. Are you still muted, hon?
Okay, hey now. Hi. I'm sitting over here basking in all these wonderful speakers that I get to share this day with. And so that's one of my hashtags, hashtag cute, not perfect. That's why I was still muted. I am so grateful and honored to be here today and to talk about transformation. And I can come from a personal and a professional aspect. I was introduced as Andrea Mack, and that was the name that was given to me the day that I was born, February 13th, 1969. Today, I sit before you at 52 years old, married to Michael Castine, which would make my name Andrea Castine. But I've been transformed, and I've gone back to Andrea Mack for a great many reasons. Because as I lived my life, there were some milestones that I hit. There were some great milestones that I hit. I learned how to read and to count, and I graduated high school, and I went off to college, and I entered corporate America. And those were some great milestones that I hit. But there were some other milestones that I hit as well. I learned how to lie and hide and manipulate at a very early age because I was abused at a very early age, sexually, physically, emotionally. And because those things happened to me, I learned how to be fine all the time. How are you doing, Andrea? I'm good. I'm fine. I'm okay. What's the matter? Nothing's the matter. I barely cried and I barely talked. And now there are days that I can't stop crying. My friends call me Jeremiah, the weeping prophet. But you know what? Like that's what gets me to the other side. Those tears, my husband will tell you now, just let her cry. Because after she's cried, she is good as gold, right as rain, and ready to take on all of North America, which I know is not my business. My business is to go about my Father's business and work that out. And I know that I cannot help everyone. I know that Everyone is not my ideal client. I know that all of this hair is not a cape because I am not a superhero. I am covered in flesh from head to toe, and I have an assignment, and I'm about that assignment. And because I heard the call, I heard the call early. I ignored the call. I knew it couldn't have been for me. And now I'm answering the call. And as I answer the call, I'm realizing that everything that I went through, all the sexual traumas that I went through, all the physical abuse that I went through, all the emotional abuse that I went through, all the spiritual abuse that I went through was for a purpose. It was to make me who I am today. Yes, I'm married to Michael Castine, but I am today Andrea Mack. Hashtag Andrea Mack Restored, because Andrea Mack went through so many things. I was a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. I was homeless. I was promiscuous. I was a liar. I was a thief. I was a victim at times. And then there were times that I was the victimizer. Because this is not all about tears. And if you knew what happened to me, you'd understand why I drank. If you knew what happened to me, you'd understand why I chose to use drugs. And if you knew what happened to me, you'd know the choices that I made. There were times when I willfully hurt others. Yes, I understand now that part of that is my response to trauma, but I also understand that those traumas did not kill me for a reason. And that's not because I didn't try. I had several suicide attempts, and I'm grateful today that I failed at them. Because today, I don't live in shame. Today, I'm not clothed in darkness. Today, I don't walk around with that comfy blanket of ugliness. And if they only knew, they wouldn't like me. And if they knew where I've been, they wouldn't let their, husbands around me. I mean, I'm here to tell the truth. And the truth of the matter is that I didn't always look like this. I was a very sad looking yellow, grayish tint about me because all I did was drink and use, and everything that I needed to do to drink and use, I did. And it's only because of a praying mother, a praying grandmother, great facilities and institutions that I went through, having an amazing connection and relationship with my God as I see him, being able to go to the throne of grace on my own with no intermediate or intercessor for me. I'm able to pray for myself. I'm able to go boldly to the throne of grace and become the person that I am today, Andrea Mack, 52 years old, not Andrea Mack, the 5-year-old that was abused, not Andrea Mack, the 8-year-old that was abused, not Andrea Mack, the 13-year-old that was abused, not Andrea Mack, the high school student that had this date rape, not her, not that shame-filled person that could barely look you in the eye, not that person that was so disgusted with herself, could barely catch a reflection without looking the other way, not that person that didn't ever feel like, I never felt like I was enough. I wasn't smart enough, pretty enough, fast enough, thin enough, none of those things. But once I had a drink or a substance in me, I could dance, sing, play pool, laugh, tell you a story, none of them being true. But I was okay because I was literally out of my mind because I was so strung out. And I wasn't, we heard Emma talk about the functional alcoholic and addict. I was not that person. I did not function. I functioned, but on a whole lower level of life. I was the person that slept on the A train. I was the person that slept in Central Park. I was that person. I was the person that graduated high school, went off to college, went into corporate America, had the world at my feet. And then I started to drink and I was like, this is great. And I felt like I fit in. And all those corporate meetings, you know, that happened after the office, I was the life of the party and I got the deal signed until I wasn't the life of the party and I couldn't get the deal signed. I don't know where I went from. I don't know when I crossed the line from being able to get the deal signed and hanging out with the boys and having liquid lunches to crossing over to not knowing where I woke up, can't find my car. Is this New York or is this New Jersey? Pockets of time of the day, weeks, years gone. I went someplace a couple of years ago and I said, oh my gosh, I love it here. I have to come back here. And they're like, you've been here before. And I said, okay. There are pockets of my life that I don't remember. And maybe they will come back and maybe they won't come back. But who I am today is Andrea Mack, married to Michael Castine. I'm no longer hiding. I'm no longer trying to fit in whatever it is you think I need to be. I don't have to look like what you think I need to look like. I don't have to sound like the way you think I need to sound like. I don't have to walk, talk. I live in a certain place and people say, oh, you live there? I do. Actually, I do. Today, you can look at me and think that you have it figured out. Trust me when I tell you that you don't. I work with some of the most sick, broken, bruised, self-loathing people. And because I'm part of a wonderful team, I love what the young woman said before, because I'm part of such a wonderful team, I've seen people get their kids back from the state. I've seen marriages restored. I've seen people leave marriages because we're not supposed to stay everywhere we're planted here. I've seen people leave marriages. I've seen people tell their mama, daddy, and grandmother, love you, love me more, hashtag love me more. I've seen people decide that they're going to speak up. I'm one of those people. As I go about my Father's business, I am no longer protecting the elders. I am no longer protecting the elders. I'm protecting the babies. Because I was that 5-year-old. I was that 8-year-old. I was that 13-year-old. And, oh, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Not maybe. Yes, I'm sure. Because my abusers were family members, close family members. My abusers were, but he seemed like the nicest guy. Yeah, the guy up the street, the quarterback, the head of the Latin club. Those were my abusers, just to name a few. And so as I live out loud, as I live this life of fearlessness, as I live this life of not caring, yes, I care what people think. I'm not a sociopath, my goodness gracious. But I don't care enough to change my footsteps. I don't care enough to stop talking. I don't care enough to tell my clients, I tell you it can and will get better if you do this, that, and the other thing. Have I saved them all? My goodness, no. That isn't my job. That isn't my calling. That isn't my anointing. My job is to tell my story, use the tools that I've received to become certified, become part of a team to get people to a place where they're well. Their well may not look like mine. I'm telling the world. I am here to help and heal the masses. If you will listen, I will tell you. But not everybody is going to get that well. I had someone tell me that my son's 21, maybe it was 6 years ago. She says, you know what? I don't want to work with you anymore. And I was like, well, what have I done? I haven't done anything. but I needed to know. I says, is it something that I did? Was it my approach? Was it my tone? She says, you know what? I'm feeling really good where I am, and I don't want to get any freer. And I got that because I knew her story from beginning to end. And there's layers. There's layers of sickness. There's layers of wellness. There's layers of freedom. I'm working on a project right now about the way I dreamt as a little girl. And I will share a snippet. When I was a little girl, I still can remember my dreams. As a little girl, I was always running. Today at 52, actually it's been about 10 years. I have 17 years sober from drugs and alcohol. 10/4/04 is my sober date. Today, when I dream, and the past decade, maybe 15 years, I am running. But as I'm running, I'm picking up speed, and I'm literally flapping my arms, and I'm taking flight. I'm no longer running. I mean, and when I tell you that I was running as a little girl, I would be running through these abandoned buildings. There'd be something behind me that I could never catch the full glimpse of. I didn't know if it was a person or a dog or a giraffe. I had no idea, but I knew that I was scared to death. And now when I dream, I'm running and I'm picking up speed and I'm flapping my arms, and I can feel my feet come off of the ground, and I'm high in the sky, and I'm free. And not all of my clients want to be that free, and that's their choice, because they're not here to become like me. I don't want them to be, how dare me to presume that they come to live a life like I live. I want to just get them whatever well looks like for them. That's what well looks like for them. I know what well looks like for me. This is part of it. This is but the beginning for me. So transformation, restoration, I was taught when I was a missionary, what seems like many moons ago, my pastor said to me, do you know what restoration means? And I said, well, I think I do. I think I do. It's to make better. He says, well, think about a car. When you restore, let's say a 1948 Chevrolet, you restore a 1948 Chevrolet and you're living in the year 2022. It's not going to be what it was in 1948 when you bought it. It's going to be so much better. That's the restoration. I've been around some people, some wonderful people, some people like me that are sober, that are recovered, that are well, and I've heard them say, "Oh, I got my life back, and I'm so happy." Trust me when I tell you, I don't want my life back. I want the life that God intended for me. Because if I got my life back, I'd be sitting on a stool in an Irish pub somewhere. I did not get my life back. I got the life that was purposed for me by my Father, capital F. And for that, I am so grateful. I'm grateful that I didn't succeed at my suicide attempts. I'm grateful that I failed. I'm grateful that I took some time to figure out what I was doing. Getting sober is a full-time job in and of itself. And I was like, okay, I'm good. And I went into corporate America and I did great. And I made this and that and the other thing and all the shiny baubles that come with that. But I said, you know what? There's more. I knew there was more. And I was afraid. I was afraid of the more. And then I said, you know what? You weren't afraid when you were drinking. You weren't afraid when you were drugging. You weren't afraid of going home with this one. You weren't afraid of breaking into that one. Why am I afraid now? Everything from my God is good. And so I said, yes. Send me wherever that is and whatever that looks like. And so I had been a mentor for so long in the community, in the facilities. And someone said to me, did you ever think about being a coach? And I was like, what? I don't play soccer. And I'm not athletic at all. And they says, no, life coaching. And I was like, oh, okay. I've seen a little something about that. And I went to school for that. as my other coach here did. And it was important to me to become certified because I wanted to do the work. I did the work to get sober. I didn't just stop drinking. I didn't just stop using. I did a lot of work to get more than 17 years sober. And so I wanted to do the work to get certified, and I did. And I'm so happy that I did, because it holds me accountable to what the word she used was vetted. And yes, it's no joke. We're answering to, I can't just walk around and tell you all my clients' business. Well, I can if I want to get sued. And so I'm grateful that I took that route. And, if I had to break it down, this transformation, restoration process, I would have to say it's realizing that there's a problem and possibly the problem is you. Because yes, I drank and I drugged and I lied and I stole. But once I put the drink down, once I stopped using, there was still a problem. And that problem was me, because I was hiding and I didn't want you to know what was happening with me. And I had to get honest about the abuses. So the first one would be admitting that there's a problem. The second one would be getting help, because you can admit that there's a problem and still be like, you know what? If I don't think about it, it's going to go away. That's not true. I mean, short of a lobotomy, that's not true. So you got to get help. And then once you get the help, so there's a problem, get the help, do the work. Because I know many people that have admitted there's a problem, get the help, sit on the couch, lay on the couch, whatever pose you take. And it can become a social event. It can become, you think your coach or therapist is your girlfriend. It's, you got to do the work. When the coach or the therapist said, when I give sometimes I'll give assignments that say, go home and write down 10 things that you love about yourself. And people come back and they're like, I can only do 6. That's the work. Go home and think about the people that bring you joy. Write those people down. Then go home and think about the people that when you're done shopping with them, lunching with them, brunching with them, doing the soccer thing on Sunday, when you're done with those people, do you walk away going, oh my gosh, I'm emotionally exhausted. I need a drink. I need a nap. I need to return everything that I bought with them, because I was really just trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's a whole nother conference. I actually wrote a book about a relationship. I wrote a chapter about about a relationship that I was in, that all I did was shop and lunch with this person. And when we separated, I was exhausted. I needed a nap, and I returned 90% of the things that I bought because I was trying to keep up with her. And the fourth thing would be free. Whatever freedom looks like to you. If freedom looks like, so Andrea, we're going to have Thanksgiving on Wednesday this year because Uncle Anthony is in town on that day. Freedom for me would be, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to stay home in New Jersey on this side of the river, because I don't desire to have Thanksgiving dinner with Uncle Anthony. That's freedom. Freedom is, I'm not obliged to do anything that you've asked me to do. No is a full sentence. It comes with a period, an exclamation point. I don't care what you put on it. When I tell you no, I don't owe you an explanation. I can offer you one. Well, Ange, why aren't you going? I don't really care for the people that's going to be at that brunch. I don't want to. Yeah, but Susie's so nice. All Susie does is talk about Sarah when Sarah's not there. I don't need that energy. I have enough of my own energy, and I would rather not need to, pray and meditate and possibly shower after spending time with people. It's not that I don't have time. I'm not making time for that. So there's a problem, get some help, do the work, be free. I work with so many people. I work with individuals, I work with groups, I work in institutions. I work with families because trauma and addiction, they go hand in hand. So many times they go hand in hand. And just because we get sober, just because we recover, doesn't mean that we're good. It means that we got sober and we're recovered. There's other things that need to be worked on. And trauma doesn't have to be that you were sexually assaulted when you were 5. Yes, that's one of my traumas. Trauma could be my parents got divorced or they stayed married. And it was a traumatic childhood because all there was yelling, screaming, cursing. I wish you would die, and they think that you're asleep and you're not. When we hear the word trauma, so often we think, oh my goodness gracious, do you know what her grandfather did? Yes, there's that. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be, my parents stayed married for 20 years. Why did they not get divorced when I was 6? It would have been so much. I tell people all the time, this is not the 50s. We don't stay married for the kids. The kids want us to get divorced. I am so grateful that I am a child of the Most High. I am so grateful that I am sober, that I am recovered. I am so grateful that I am no longer afraid to go about what I have been called to do. I am so grateful that I listen. I'm so grateful that I have that team that beautiful young woman just talked about. I have the friend, I have the coworker, other coaches, other business owners. I'm so grateful that I have the cheerleader. I'm so grateful that I have the mentor. And guess what? I have a coach of my own. Hello? Yes, I have a coach of my own. With that, I will say, have a wonderful, peaceful, free Saturday. And if you're not as free as you'd like to be, one of us can help you get there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just have to breathe.
Deep breath.
I have to breathe. Whew. All right. So we really hope that you have enjoyed all of our speakers. For the sake of time, we're just going to roll right into the Q&A. For all the panelists are here on the Zoom, so feel free. I know them pretty well enough to know that they are very open. You're going to get the real deal as far as any questions that you ask them. So please do not hesitate. Use this as an opportunity to ask a coach or a counselor something that you've been wanting to know. If you need clarification about anything that they said earlier, or want them to repeat anything they said earlier, or just have something that you want to know, please, we really want you to take this opportunity to ask any questions you have.
You can ask questions in the chat feature or just say them on the Zoom.
And be mindful, if you're muted and want to ask a question, you got to unmute yourself.
And this can be for questions or feedback.
Oh yeah, we love feedback.
Yeah.
It's always people be scared, and then once one person asks a question, then the floodgates open. So isn't it that way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I have something to say. I don't know if you guys put it in the ad or not, but do we have time like for each person to kind of tell where our guests can find them, like websites, Instagram, Facebook, social media?
Yes, of course. Yes.
So yeah.
Go ahead. You can go ahead. You have-
Okay. Okay. So to find me as a life coach, you can follow me on Instagram or my Facebook page. It's Fearless Journey Coaching. And I'm starting a new class for the 21 days self-love journey. If you would like to participate, I'll put the link in the chat and you can follow me on, or you can do the intake form, the registration form, and we'll do a consultation before you join. As far as my jewelry line, it's an affirmation faith-based jewelry line, and you can find me on that platform, Instagram and Facebook at Be Fearlessly Inspired. I'll drop it all in the chat. Thank you. And thank you, ladies, for this opportunity. Thank you to all the speakers. You all were awesome, very informative, and I look for more projects in the future.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. We'll also be sending a follow-up email after the event today with all of the speakers' information again, so that you can have it with all their Instagram and social media handles, and then also some resources from the teachings today, just to kind of get you started on your journey to wholeness.
And the conference was recorded as well, so that will be on our YouTube page after the conference is over, and that's at Mental Health Uncorked on YouTube.
Great.
Andrea, you want to go next?
Thank you so much. I will. So my website is Andrea, ANDREA dash MACK.com. And you can take a look. There's a little connect button. We can have a consultation, see if I'm the right person for you, see if you're the right person for me, and we can take it from there. I am on Instagram at One Word Coach. So it's the word, not the number. It's at ONEWORDCOACH. That's also my Facebook page, One Word at a Time Coaching. Word is all capital for my reasons. And if you want to get to me more directly than that, it's you can get me at 201-290-1644. Not everybody likes to do the computer thing, so text me. Say that you saw me here. Let's chat about it. Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can get you well. Oh, and my email, I apologize, is Andrea Mack 1111. So Andrea Mack 4 1s at gmail.com. Thank you.
Perfect. Miss Katina James.
Hi, thank you again, Ariel and Heather. I've really enjoyed today. Everybody really shared a lot of nuggets, and even I appreciate you all sharing your story. I am Katina. I'm licensed in Florida. So if you are in the state of Florida, I accept insurances with Aetna, Optum, Oscar Health, Oxford, and United Healthcare. And I do believe I can take Medicaid. So if you're looking for counseling, I am virtual. I'm open to different hours. I think sometimes counseling is typically available 9 to 5, but I do have some flexibility in terms of time. I also work in college planning and career counseling. So I'll be launching my college planning hopefully in the next 30 days to help high school students prepare for college, because a lot of times, like a lot of, I don't know about you all, but I really didn't know what career to choose. So my counseling career, I started, I'll just say later in life. My first career was in health information management. It was not a good fit for me. And sometimes a lot of the the emotional problems we have sometimes can be work related. Like we're in a field that we have no passion for. So if you're looking for someone or you are aware of someone who needs some help finding a good match for them in terms of a career, a high school student that needs to plan for college, I can help with that. So again, those insurances are Aetna, Optum, Oscar Health, Oxford, United Healthcare, and I'm also on BetterHelp. So if you have any questions, they're going to have my number. I'm on Psychology Today. My number directly is 352-281-9425. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least,
Emma.
Emma.
I don't, I work for like a private company that does therapy. So I don't have my own like thing yet. So I don't have any cool websites and stuff to give you guys, but you're welcome to follow me on Instagram. Yeah, I very much enjoyed today. Thanks for letting me cry. And then sorry, my internet went out for like 30 whole minutes at the end of my thing. So if I was frozen and whatnot, it wasn't like a mic drop moment. The internet went out and it would not come back on. So,
Okay.
but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to have a very, very short break, about 5 minutes or so. And then Heather and I will come back on and complete the conference today with a live podcast recording. Our topic today is Better You. Yeah.
Jeez.
We're also going to go ahead and run that PowerPoint again that has everyone's merchandise on there, their businesses, their journals, t-shirts, and things of that nature, okay?
Take for the night, understand that's kind of late, and I gotta get home to my son, 'cause he's so special to me. I mean, I gotta see him, I need to breathe him, that's my baby, don't call me crazy. I love the studio, but I love him more, let me give you what I got. So I woke up in the morning feeling fresh to death, I'm so blessed, yes, yes. I went to sleep stressed, woke up refreshed, I'm so blessed, yeah, yes. Everything is in its place. Peace of mind, even my grace. I'm so blessed. Yes, yes, yes. My grandma almost lived to see 92. I'm so blessed. Yes, 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 yes. My son was born healthy and beautiful. I'm so blessed. Yeah, yes. My mama's on my right side, daddy on my left. My son, father doing is absolute. I'm so blessed, blessed, blessed. Now that I got your attention. Yeah, hey. How you doing? 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 Come on. Let me dub, let me mirror. Hey, back again. Yeah, hey. Y'all mind walking with us for a second? Talk to me. Tell me what you see when I pass by. Shadow, a cloud, or a line in the sky. Am I getting it wrong or am I getting it right? Well, all I can take is one step at a time. Look at me, I'm trying every day. I fall down, make mistakes, get back up, try again. Next time that you see me, I'm walking, I'm walking, I'm walking. 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 Some people say walking takes too long, but I say with walking you can't go wrong. Why should you?